addition, I've traveled the world and I'm still what's called a technologist. I go to Barcelona, I go to Santa Clara, I meet with the other CIOs, I know about the Internet of Things. I know what the technology is going to require us to be able to do in the future. We're now using those tool sets in the county. The same thing with your businesses you're now using. The same thing that this device can now do. It is our speaker.
Thank you, Richard. Shane, you got 1 minute to respond to anything, any experiences or real-world experiences that you're going to bring to the county judges?
Yes, I'd like to focus on my legal background. I spent 20 years as a lawyer, and I'm not sure the typical lawyers see on the commercials, the 444s, ambulance chasers. I'm a very unique kind of lawyer. I'm what's called an appellate lawyer. We research and analyze problems. The trial lawyers hire us on complex cases to make sure we develop a strategy, a plan, and come up with possible solutions for things we see in the case. Those same concepts can apply to the county government, that this legal background can help dissect these development projects that are put forward, dissect the water issues we have, and try to come up with solutions. And my research and writing skills can help start with that. But also, I'm a military JAG. During COVID, I was activated, and I was put on the selected handpicked for the crisis action team for all of JBSA. And so I was dealing with local, state, and federal governments, trying to navigate the tumultuous times that we're dealing with COVID.
Wrap it up, too. Chris, 1 minute.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, Shane. I did a SWAT on Richard and Shane, just so you know. Before I came here tonight, I served under the last 3 mayors in Bernie on different commissions, including our mayor right here. So I've got experience there. I've also served as a firefighter in Bernie and Kendall County EMS. So I think I have a lot of experience in the emergency services in case we do have a disaster here. I understand when a judge has to take over a county in a big disaster like you hear about around the nation right now. Hopefully that'll never happen here, but I've been involved in major chemical leaks on the highway. We've had to shut down I-10 for a full day. So how do you handle that? What experience do you have that there? And then as far as my legal and business background, I taught around the world how to do collaboration in South America, Central America, North America, and Europe. So I think I can bring that to the table also. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I think you've got the next question. You'll have 2 minutes to answer this, and then Chris and Richard, a minute each. What is your long-term vision for the road network in Kindle County?
Thanks for this.
Remembering that Bernie is in Kindle County.
Yes, sir. So I know the past 2 years, there's been a transportation and mobility committee that's been created for public input. They've put forth 350 different projects that they believe could help address some of our issues. About 150 of those goes towards roads. I think it should be the Commissioner's Court priority to start prioritizing and implementing their thoughts and ideas, because that's the public process. That's the ideas that y'all came up with, and it should be, we should exhaust all of those options that have been presented by this committee to see where that gets us with our transportation and mobility before we start going to these nuclear options like seizing people's land by eminent domain to build a loop. So I've dealt with eminent domain cases in my private practice, and the landowners always lose. No one wants to see that. You cannot win in these cases because the citizens pay their own legal fees. You're always never getting fair market value. So before we result to an option like that, I think we take forth what this committee has presented after 2 years of preparation and study and work with what they got first. Thank you.
Chris, 1 minute.
I can tell you I'll never support eminent domain. Whatever the hardest I can do to prevent that. I have a solution. but Gillespie County won't like it. So anybody's from there, don't tell them, because I think it's going right down 290, and go all the way around Kendall County up there, and go to like Johnson City into Austin. That could get like 30% of our transportation problems away from here. But as far as locally, more of the interconnectivity within our neighborhoods and developers when they come in to collaborate with them, again, on how to interconnect those subdivisions that may come here in the future and collaborate with them. Until we get some kind of legislation passed in the future, we're going to have to do that with any development that comes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I will. Richard, you get 1 minute. What is your long-term vision for the road network in Kendall County?
I'll tell you what will happen in Kendall County. One, we do not have $100 million. We don't have $150 million. So the reality is we'll fix some intersections. We'll fix some low water crossings. 281 eventually get fixed. Blanco will be worked on. 3351 will be worked on. And a lot of traffic we have coming into the city will go away. Now, in the far future, what will happen is that probably 473 or one of the other roads will be made into some higher transportation road, and it'll allow people to go more around this area. But we're more concerned about what's happening in this area where we live. And when I told you we'll fix intersections, working together with the city, and the other work will be done by TxDOT outside, and that'll make us a lot better. And that'll work for us for about 10 years, 15 years.
Thank you, Richard. Chris, I think you're up. The next question, and you'll have 2 minutes to respond to this. Does the county have a role in managing growth, and how do you propose that be done?
Again, this will be by collaboration. That's all we have right now, I think. Kendall County is one of the toughest counties to build in right now, or to develop with the 6 acres for water. I think our problem is more in the high density areas that are coming. If we can collaborate with our local cities, Fair Oaks and Bernie, the southern part of the county is where most of this high density growth is going. If we can get involved with the cities and the county work together, which I think has been a problem in the past, at least from what I hear from the mayors that I've talked to, and the current mayors, that the county relationship is not that good with the cities. So if we can collaborate better, work together on the plan, what is our vision for 10 years? And the immediate plan to fix some of these intersections. We've got an intersection up in Comfort, we've got the Herf and River Road, we've got Main and the School Road intersection there. Those would be top priorities to work together in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? You've got a minute left. Anything else? Richard, same question. You got a minute to respond. Does the county have a role in managing growth, and how do you propose it be done?
The county has a big role in managing growth. We've got to get better at providing incentives to developers to help them make the hard decision to grow developments, build developments like they have at Cordillera, what they're going to do at George's Ranch, etc. Minimum 1 acre. That's what we've got to do. We've got to encourage where we have rain catchment systems, where we do zero landscaping, etc., instead of the typical development of put in a yard, get some gray water over there, and do it like you did in San Antonio. This is not an urban area. This is a rural area. We've just got to get better at working with them.
James, 1 minute, same question.
Yes, I've already touched on kind of 2 points, but I have a few more to add. One, we need to get a seat at the table with the developers and present some options that are pre-approved by the citizens. For example, we create a committee like the Transportation Committee and put forward plans for development that would satisfy us, to let these developers know what we think is good. Also, we can start reaching out to the landowners and start educating them on some other ideas outside the box, like conservation easements, or putting deed restrictions in your own property before you sell it that limits what kind of size tracts you want your property developed into if it happens down the road. So ideas like that can help fall in your control, where the citizens can voluntarily do something to help growth. If they want to preserve their land, they can do steps, but it's got to be voluntary. And the commissioner's court should take the opportunity to educate the community on this.
Thank you, Shane. Richard, next question, you've got 2 minutes to respond. What are your ideas of reducing property taxes? Which that was number 1.
Ideas to reduce property taxes. Wow. I have to really think about that. I guess if we could find some more Bucky-type businesses or IT-type businesses that would bring in significant tax revenue, that would reduce property tax and would not cause the schools to have to build extra schools. Because just the Bucky's on the other side of the expressway is equivalent to about 500 homes. And that's pretty smart. That's a smart decision. I wouldn't have liked the decision if it was on this side because it affects the existing business, but over there, that's a smart decision. Move this community more to a not so much of a home situation, more businesses, so that we could share in the property tax with businesses. Other than that, I don't think anything else. That's the main thing. You've got to change the mix of what we have. You cannot survive on what we're doing with 80% homes and 20% businesses, and we're all 5 to 10 people in business. You've got to get some other businesses with revenue.
Thank you, Richard. Shane, 1 minute, same question.
I don't know what we can do to reduce them now. I think we have maintained a constant base tax rate for years, and my intention is to try to maintain that base tax rate. And it all starts, though, with being good stewards of your money at the government level. And so if we have years and years of excessive tax revenue that comes in, that would be probably a good opportunity to bring up the conversation of reducing the tax rate. But right now, the goal should be to keep it the same. We're able to keep our government running efficiently on this budget. We've been good stewards thus far, and I think we continue with that rate. But one thing that I can do that no one else up here can is I can save you tax dollars on day one by adding some judicial functions to my role as county judge with my law degree. That, in essence, is a tax savings because you're not having to hire visiting judges or bring on other people to handle some of the cases from our courts. Thank you.
Same question, Chris, 1 minute.
All right, I would start by reducing the judge's salary. I think it's too high. It really is. And I could take some of that salary and give it to somebody to come visit and do some judicial work until we get through the backlog that we've had from the previous administration. So we could take some of that money, maybe a good chunk of that money, take it over there instead of bringing that into the judge's responsibility, which we have enough problems with growth and water and development to be spending our full-time basis rather on judicial stuff. At HP, my job was to save money in a way to reduce taxes, or reduce savings by $42 million. And that money didn't lose any jobs for anybody. We reused it for bonuses, research and development, without increasing the cost of our products. And I won HP's highest honor in the company for being able to reduce the cost. And I think we can do that in our county development.
Thank you, Chris. Question? You'll have 2 minutes to respond. In what area in the county is right now going, in your opinion, in the wrong direction? And how do you propose redirecting that? You get to pick.
I think overall the growth is happening around Bernie and Precinct 2. So I think, I'm not saying it's heading in the wrong direction. There's things beyond our control. This is a property rights state. You can develop your property and do what you want on it. And so we have to respect that. But the most we can do is kind of help guide the property owners to comply with things that benefit the community more than the developers that are coming from out of state. So we're limited, but that's why we got to start reaching out to Austin to try to get some control, try to start breaking down these agreements to see where we can press them to comply with what we want. So I think we're really limited in, because this could happen anywhere. It could start happening in Comfort, but we got to get ahead of the game now, and before it's too late. Thank you.
Chris, same question, 1 minute to respond.
I can't wait for Richard's answer, because if I say something about this, I'm going to make 3 people in this room mad, the current commissioners that I see. But one of it is taxes, is I think that we need to lower taxes by what I just said a few minutes ago. I think we could improve fire safety out in the county and EMS response time and fund those better, fund the police, fund EMS, fund the fire. When I was 10 years old, I came home with fire trucks all around my house. 30 seconds, if they wouldn't have been there, 30 seconds later, my whole house would have burned down. So I can appreciate that. And the same thing with my wife having a cardiac arrest at 39 years old. Emergency response time, we need to have that get out in Sisterdale, Kendall, these outlying areas that don't have that fast response. And for police too. So I think we can reutilize funds in those areas and take them from other areas where we're spending too much money. Thank you.
Chris, Richard,
What was the question?
1 minute. In what area, in your opinion, is the county going in the wrong direction? How do you propose to redirect them?
Going in the wrong direction. I don't know anything the county's going in the wrong direction. I understand exactly what we're doing and why we do it. As far as EMS and fire, I cannot remember in 6 years or 7 years a single thing they asked for that they didn't get. The sheriff's department, as far as public safety, etc. Not much there either. As far as doing something to reduce taxes, the 2 suggestions the gentleman made a while ago equated to about $80,000, and that's like 40 houses worth of taxes. That's not going to do anything out of 16,000 houses. Probably the only thing you could do is bring in more business and less homes and get that kind of revenue and be able to reduce the taxes from that point of view.
Thank you, Richard. Chris, I believe you start on this question. You've got 2 minutes to respond to this. The dynamics of water availability are rapidly changing, as we already know from the 2020 census, right? City of Bernie is over 20,000, county is over 44,000. How do we plan to manage that change and that demand that we've got on our water?
This is a big one, and this was very important to me. I think education to the community is one of our top areas that we can help with. If we get the high cedar areas out in the county that have a lot of cedar trees, we're talking a cedar tree when it rains uses, I think, 0.95 of the first inch when it rains. If we can get those cedars cleared, the cedar trees, that would help conserve a lot of water, or get a lot of water into the ground. And it's educating people, plus working with the Soil Conservation Society and helping get that funded even better than it is today. A lot of people don't even know you can get funding to help you remove the cedar trees. The other is increasing education in the rainwater capture systems. And if we can get more people in the rainwater, that would help also, because I remember River city of Bernie, I think, is covered for 38,000 people, so they've got plenty of years of water for growth there, but we got big problems out of the county. So if we can, I think, just educating people, getting more funding and from the soil conservation and maybe other areas to help with that cedar removal and rainwater capture systems. Thank you.
Richard? Same question, you've got 1 minute to respond. The dynamics of the water availability are rapidly changing. Obviously, we're fast growth. How do we plan to manage that?
We're not alone. All of Texas has the same problem. Trinity, the water group voted for the Trinity Aquifer to be allowed to be dropped another 30 feet. The problem is, how many wells go dry when that happens? So, Commissioner's Court is looking at providing some money to Cow Creek to add some additional test wells so we can follow where the water table's going down, so we can do some things in that area. Guide some developers with information not to build in certain areas. Be very aggressive with incentives to developers for rainwater catching systems so that we can stop using as much water that we are. Talk to our neighbors and tell them, don't water your yard all the time. Go zero scale. My yard is really nice. I cut the rocks regularly. We need to do more of that. Educate the people coming in. When I talk to the realtors and they bring individuals in, I tell them the water doesn't come out of the hose, it comes out of the ground.
Thank you, Richard. Shane, 1 minute.
Unfortunately, the problem starts in Austin. This is another area where we need Austin to help us, because that's where the real change comes. Because we can increase the acreage for, instead of 1 well per 6 acres to 10. We can start encouraging water conservation. These are all Band-Aids. The real action comes from Austin. So we need to make sure we're electing someone to our House District 19 and our other state rep positions that will be our voice in Austin, because we need help. Everything we're offering, these are just Band-Aids, because the developers can pipe in water, and none of it matters. So we need more than just these little Band-Aids to solve this. There's other options too, like if there is an area in our county that needs to be preserved. There was a place called Honey Creek in Comal County.
Save that thought. Thank you, Shane. Richard? You get 2 minutes to respond to, 2 minutes to respond to this next question. As Kendall County Judge, how would you structure and execute the county budget process?
The county budget process is defined basically by Austin. We start the budget process in May. We have specific timetables. We have to meet throughout all the way until September when it has to be adopted. So there's not a lot you can do there. What we do specifically in this county is we send out information to all the department heads in April. We expect their ask as far as what they want back in May. Our auditor puts all the information together. It usually comes to us with $3-4 million more than what we have. And then we have our first meetings with all the department heads, so meeting each day. And this process goes on all the way through to July. By the end of the July, we have it all worked down to where it's going to be a balanced budget, or at least we know what we can and cannot do. So it's predefined for us. Now that they all do their own analysis and they know what they need to have, what expenditures in the future, they literally can save up based on what their peers need, so that if they need a new grader, like we bought a new grader for $250,000, $300,000, someone doesn't spend the money the first year, the second year we have the extra money, we buy the grader. So it's working collectively with true budgeting and not spend budgets. That makes the difference.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Same question. You have 1 minute to respond. As Kendall County Judge, how would you structure and execute the county budget process?
Well, I think the process is well established, and that any new member can step into the current system and continue it, and that's what I plan to do. But I would also add, besides these, the little workshops, I think we need to bring back where the county judge is meeting on a regular basis with the department heads. And so continually throughout the year, you're always on top of their needs, wants, and issues like that. And if we're not doing that, it all comes out later in the year. But we could be working and coming up with solutions throughout the year, and that would help streamline these workshops later when it comes time to the budget. Thank you.
Shane. Chris, 1 minute, same question.
All right. One thing I'd like to do to improve the budget process is to have a capital replacement plan, so that we are proactive about what we're going to need to spend in the future in the next couple of years, rather than being reactive when something breaks down, like the mulcher, where we needed a couple of $100,000 to replace that. If we would have known and planned that years ago in advance, we would already know that's coming and don't have to come up with some kind of emergency or create a plan to spend that kind of money. And I'd go down a little deeper than the department heads, like I did at HP. The money savings came from working down at the ground level, boots on the ground. Go out with the employees that filled the potholes. And go out with the deputies and ride. I've done that before where I've ridden around with deputies. And see what they need. And get down at that boot and ground level for that next budget process. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. You can give it to Shane. Shane, you have 2 minutes to respond to this next question. What are the highest priority road and bridge challenges for Kendall County?
Well, I think it goes back to this loop that keeps getting talked about, because I know that there's a desire to solve the congestion on our local thoroughfares, and it's going back to what the 150 projects to improve the road congestion from this committee, because they have taken the time. A lot of them are experts in their field, and we need to start exhausting those. And there's some other ideas that have been floated around about, there's some other easements and things like that running through Bernie that could be useful for this thoroughfare to get the traffic around Bernie. But it all starts with this transportation committee and implementing everything they do, because there's roundabouts being talked about, there's incremental changes to our existing infrastructure rather than additions that would lead to the eminent domain process. So, thank you.
Chris, 1 minute to respond to the question, what are the highest priority road and bridge challenges for Kendall County?
All right. Well, the county comfort, the intersection right in town there. It's a dangerous intersection that needs to be improved. I mentioned the others before, School Road and Main Street, and River Road, and Esser Road. I think we also need to improve Ammon Road. Widen that. I've talked to some landowners out there that if they're compensated fairly, they'd be willing to give up some property or sell their property to do that, and make some safety updates around those curves there. So those would be the 3 top ones, and then the other one I said going around Gillespie County on 290 to take care of the other 30%. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Richard, 1 minute. Highest priority road and bridge challenges for Kendall County.
Low River Crossing at Currington, Low River Crossing at Old San Antonio and Hearth. Those 2 need to be fixed really quick. Cascade Caverns in Old San Antonio. Hearth and River Road, going to put the 2 left lanes in and change the light, so both left lanes you can turn left and solve that traffic issue. School in Maine, put a turnaround or something, but fix it. It's a very dangerous intersection. Bandera in Maine, do something with the turn lanes. We have some great roads getting the traffic to an intersection, but you can't get through the intersection. And fix the area at HEB and Bandera. Either change the timing of the lights, whatever. I know the overpass over I-10 will make a difference when it's fixed, but even when it's fixed, there's something wrong there. gotta get fixed. The timing of the lights are messed up.
Thank you, Richard. Chris, you get the last question for tonight, okay? And here it is. I mentioned a little bit earlier the number that I have run into in the 2020 census for Bernie was a little over 20,000. County, a little bit over 44,000. Puts the county in being the 76th largest county out of the 254 there are, and Bernie continues to grow at 5.8%. How do you propose to address the needs in rural Kendall County as the city of Bernie continues to grow?
I think this goes back again to the collaboration I talked about and how these are all interconnected between the schools. So you got Comfort Independent School District that we need to work together with. You got Bernie Independent School District. I think, from my history here, which is a long history, I remember growing up and having to open 2 gates on Hammond Roads to get through there. It's a dirt road. So growth happens, and everybody fought paving Hammond Road. But now it's a great road to have and not get out and open up the 2 gates. We're riding the school bus down Curry Creek Road, which is now 3351, where there was a lot of accidents that have occurred. But working together with the Comfort and the Bernie, when they build these schools, it's going to come the transportation problems. It's going to become where the high density growth goes. And all the transportation issues that go with. So the collaboration